Good afternoon. I'm Ray Cavender. I'm Barbara's brother-in-law. I'm married to Joanne Bruner, sister to Barbara's late husband, Judge John Bruner. Barbara started her amazing life in suburban Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where she was born in December 1931, daughter to a Pennsylvania mother and an Alabama father, an Auburn-trained engineer working for Westinghouse. Her younger brother, Gordon, was born there 21 months after Barbara's birth. Barbara's mother, Jane, that's Janie's namesake, had a degree in music and she played piano, and Barbara took piano lessons. And Barbara loved and was very close to her maternal grandmother, whom she called Mimi, and that's probably why Barbara wanted to be Mimi to Brendan and Janie. Barbara's Mimi loved music also, especially opera, and she passed this passion on to Barbara. Mimi's back fence abutted onto the campus of Pennsylvania College for Women, PCW, and Barbara played on the campus. At age 12, Barbara and her family moved to Atlanta after Westinghouse transferred Mr. Stevenson there. Barbara finished the 7th grade at E. Rivers. Four years later, she graduated at age 16 from North Fulton High School. She had several scholarship offers, but she followed her heart back to PCW, where she used to play on the campus near Mimi's apartment. And at age 20 in 1952, Barbara graduated with honors in chemistry from Pennsylvania College for Women. Barbara kept close to her alma mater all her life. She kept the class roster, she organized the reunions, she kept in touch with classmates. And she would want me to tell you that Pennsylvania College for Women is now called Chatham College and University, and it's now co-ed, and it has 2,200 students instead of the 400 or so when Barbara was there. Barbara said she knew from a very early age that she wanted to be a doctor. Her parents encouraged and supported this dream, although it was a bit unusual at the time for a woman to think about being a doctor. But after graduating from PCW, Barbara was indeed accepted at the Emory University School of Medicine, and she entered in August of 1952, the only female in her class. I believe 2 more females joined along the way, but if you haven't done so yet, watch Barbara's contribution to the Emory Oral History Project, in which she tells of her experiences in med school and later as a physician. It's very, very interesting. In the summer before her final year in med school, Barbara was an extern at the original Eccleston Hospital for Children, and that's where she said she firmed up her decision to become a pediatrician. Barbara got her MD degree in June of 1956. She did her pediatric internship and residency at the St. Louis Children's Hospital. After a 3rd year as a senior resident at the Children's Hospital Medical Center in Boston, Barbara was approached to become a faculty member and join the new pediatric section of Emory Clinic, seeing private patients there and teaching at Grady and at Eccleston. And Barbara was an active faculty member from August 1959 to July 1990, advancing from the rank of instructor through associate professor and retiring with the title of Professor Emerita. During Barbara's working career of 30-plus years, she held a number of important positions. She was Assistant Director of Ambulatory Pediatrics in both the emergency and appointment clinics. She was Assistant Director of the Georgia Poison Control Center, then Director of the Emergency Clinic, then Assistant Chief of Service of Pediatrics. She had a particular interest and expertise in the field of child abuse and neglect and in sudden infant death syndrome, SIDS. She held a joint appointment in the Department of Community Health and Preventive Medicine as Grady Hospital Liaison for the Atlanta Southside Comprehensive Health Center, She was director of the Pediatric Core Program for PAs, physician assistant students, coming to Grady in the Division of Allied Health. And even after her retirement from medicine, or from as an active physician, she worked part-time as a locum tenens. That is, she filled in for other doctors who were away on vacation or otherwise absent. As you would expect, Barbara was a member of and involved in a myriad of professional organizations, and she collected many, many honors during and after her career. I'll mention but one of the honors to stand for all the rest. She was awarded the Lifetime Achievement Award, named for Dr. Denmark, Dr. Lila Denmark, another woman pioneer in pediatrics. Dr. Denmark practiced pediatrics even after she was 100 years old. When Barbara returned to Atlanta, after her 2 years in St. Louis and a year in Boston to join Emory Pediatrics, she needed a place to live near her work. And she faithfully rented an attic apartment in the home of Miss Stella May Powell. And in the fall of 1959, Stella May said to Barbara, "I would like you to meet my nephew. He is such a nice young man." John Bruner was a young lawyer practicing general law in Atlanta. After dating for almost a year, Barbara and John got married. July 1960, Peachtree Presbyterian Church. They started their married life living in a garage apartment in Sandy Springs, and about 2 years later they bought their first home on Montview Drive. And while living on Montview, Barbara and John welcomed to the world their first child, George Willard Horn Bruner. We know him as Will. That was March of 1963, and then in September of 1965, Arminda Jane Elizabeth Bruner, Mindy Bruner. And Arminda Jane Elizabeth Bruner, just 4 names, that's not nearly enough. Mindy has since added the name McCloskey to the end of her list, but Will, by marrying Debbie Green, added no additional names. The house on Montview got smaller, of course, with the 2 children, so Barbara and John moved again in 1967 to Hanover West Drive, and this is where they essentially spent the rest of their married life together, and where Will and Mindy grew up, and where many, many memories reside. But also many memories for the Bruner family reside in their beach house in Santa Rosa Beach, Florida. The family would usually spend a month there each summer, and all family members loved the beach and the beach house, and Will and Mindy and their families are still making memories there. After John's death in May of 1997, Barbara brought her mother in to live with her at Hanover West and to help her in her final years. And after the death of her mother, Barbara moved to a condo in Sandy Springs near Mindy and Ivan, and from that condo she moved to assisted living also nearby. We all have wonderful memories of Barbara and her unique personality. Barbara was loving while being efficiently businesslike and matter-of-fact. She was organized. She had to be to get everything done. I know our first Christmas card every year would come from Barbara, usually on the day after Thanksgiving, and of course with the 2-page letter of all that had happened since her last 2-page letter. No one's birthday or anniversary was ever missed by Barbara. We remember her handwritten notes to herself and to us, getting herself and us organized. Barbara was a great delegator. Whoever made the mistake of rising from a seated position was subject to that dreaded phrase from Barbara, "while you're up." And she'd give detailed instructions on one or several things that you needed to do before you sat back down again. But Barbara was certainly not all work and no play. She had an adventurous streak. She traveled extensively after her retirement, often with her cousin, Liz Ann Baer. She traveled to New York and abroad to indulge her love of opera. While some might think it uncharacteristic of Barbara, she bugged Will to take her on his motorcycle and to take her flying, which he did. She took herself, Barbara did, to see a Queen concert at the Omni. Now, who would have thought that? Barbara scuba dived at the Great Barrier Reef in Australia. She came back with a video and gave it to Mindy without telling Mindy what the surprise was in it. Once a thief tried to take Barbara's purse out of her shopping cart at Kroger, but he picked the wrong mark. Barbara walloped him pretty good, and the cops came and took him away while he was recovering. While Barbara had little success in recruiting Will or Mindy as opera lovers, Will's wife, Debbie, would often accompany Barbara to the opera or the symphony. God bless you, Debbie. Ivan was Barbara's personal IT expert and could be called on at any time to solve a computer problem. She called one day to say her screen had rotated 90 degrees to the left all by itself. When Ivan arrived to fix it, he found that she hadn't stopped working just because of that small inconvenience. She had simply laid the monitor over on its side so she could read the display upright and continued to work away. Barbara lived a truly, truly extraordinary life. As a woman physician, she was a pioneer and a trailblazer. As a teacher, she passed on her knowledge and expertise to literally thousands of students who continued to use it, or perhaps they've passed it on further. Mindy tells of an incident in which Janie was hit in the head by an errant golf swing and needed stitches, and Barbara and Mindy and Janie all went to Children's Hospital of Atlanta together. When word got around that Barbara was there was a virtual parade of doctors coming by to speak to Barbara, telling Barbara and Mindy and Janie what an impact Barbara had had on them during their training, or that she was a particular inspiration to the women pursuing a medical degree. In addition to her professional duties, Barbara was a wonderful mother, a devoted wife, a dutiful daughter, and a proud grandmother. We know Barbara would have been especially proud, as we all are, of Brendan's recent graduation magna cum laude from Virginia Tech and his promising prospects as he enters this next phase of his life. Barbara's work and life survive her in her family and her students and her patients and the institutions she worked with and everyone she touched. We will miss her. We will cherish the memories of her.